What's up, guys? This is Jeff from Sorta Healthy, and today we'll be talking about getting you a job, but not just any job. Today we'll be focusing on strategies that can greatly improve your odds of getting that personal training job that you're after. I made a video on this topic almost exactly a year ago, but my opinion on some of this stuff has changed recently. Also, there were some things that I left out of that previous video that I'll be covering today. We'll be going over some questions that you'll likely be asked in a personal training job interview, and we'll also cover how you should be responding to those questions. We'll also go over some specific tips that will improve your odds of making a good first impression on your interviewer. My objective for this video will be to make you feel over-prepared for that upcoming interview, and of course, to get you that job. So let's not waste any time. We've got a lot to cover in this one. Before we get into today's content, all I ask is that you consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel if you haven't done so already. This is the best way to support this channel, which is a free resource for all fitness professionals. Thank you very much for the support, everyone. I really appreciate it. So first things first, show up to your interview early. Aim for 5 to 10 minutes before the scheduled time. You'd want to be 5 to 10 minutes early to an actual training session, so do the same thing here. Any earlier than that is a little bit weird, and not as early as that is a little bit concerning and will hurt your chances of getting hired. Next, dress to impress. In general, it's better to overdress than underdress. For guys, at the very least, I would wear a polo shirt and some athletic looking pants. Khakis would also work well too. The same thing applies to girls. Wear a professional looking outfit. And if you want to dress nicer than that, great. That certainly won't hurt your chances. Dressing less put together than that will most likely hurt your chances of getting a job though. Notice how I'm not wearing my signature hat? Yeah, you're probably better off not wearing a hat or anything like that. As far as the actual interview itself goes, there are definitely some questions that are likely to pop up. If I'm looking to hire you, I'm probably going to look your resume over and ask you a few questions based on your previous experience. So be ready to explain anything that you have listed on there. By the way, it's also a good idea to bring a copy of your resume with you. A question that I might ask early on could be, what made you decide to get into personal training? Answer this one as honestly as you can and try and be as genuine in your response as you can be. When I was asked this question a long time ago, my answer was, I really like exercise science. I'm fascinated by the way the body works and how exercise can benefit all of us. I love using that knowledge to help clients get good results. Now that I interview and hire other trainers, I like answers similar to my own, and I also really like when trainers get into training because they genuinely want to help people. I want clients in my studio to be well taken care of. And I know that's more likely to happen when I bring in trainers who are genuinely interested in helping people. So keep all of that in mind when you get a question like that. Another question that is likely to pop up is, what kind of training experience do you have so far? Saying nothing here isn't really a good idea, so don't put yourself in a position where you have to say that to your interviewer to be honest. Before doing any interviews, at the very least, you should have practiced some of your skills on your friends and family members. If you come into my facility and all you've done so far is complete a certification, you've come unprepared. You might still get the job if the competition is lackluster, but you haven't put your best foot forward. So make sure you've practiced training some friends and family members, and also, if possible, try and shadow some other trainers before interviewing as well. I'm also likely to ask you something along the lines of, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Or what is your ultimate goal as a trainer? I want to find out what your real goals and aspirations in the field are. If you're smart, you'll tell me something that means you'll be sticking around in the field for at least a few years. For example, I'm not going to hire you if you're planning on leaving and going back to school in a few months. It takes me time and money to train you and make you halfway decent at the job. So yeah, you're only going to be eligible for the position if you're not leaving anytime soon. It's also costly to add new people onto the payroll. I, as an employer, have to pay taxes on every employee that I hire. There are also other costs of having employees too. So yeah, I think you get the point here. Tell me as your possible future employer that you really want to do training for at least the next few years. That way I don't leave the interview feeling like you'll be a bad time or money investment. Another question that I'm likely to ask you is, when would you be willing to work? This may have been disclosed in the job description, but it also may not have been. Personal training hours are busiest before and after work. So 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. are likely to be the busiest hours for training wherever you end up. Weekends can also be pretty busy too. If I have someone interviewing who only wants to work say 9 to 5, I'm not going to hire them. This is very rarely a 9 to 5 sort of job. Tell your potential boss that you want to work mornings or afternoons or both. Also plan on working one weekend day at some point in your training career. And unfortunately, if that doesn't sound like something you'd be interested in, then this job just isn't for you. Again, remember, training is busiest before and after work because, of course, that's when clients aren't working. The last question that we'll be focusing on today is something along the lines of, what are your training and nutrition philosophies? You may get asked something similar to that because, unfortunately, the fitness field is filled with lots of garbage information, and I want to know if you're going to fill my clients' heads with absolute nonsense. If you're bringing MLMs or pyramid schemes into my facility, well, that's certainly a red flag in my eyes. If you think carb restriction is the best way to lose weight, also not good. If you're going to have my clients or members do all high-impact jumping exercises, again, that's a bad sign. Stick to the basics that were taught to you in your certification. Don't bring any weird or trendy ideologies with you to your training job interview. They will greatly hurt your chances of getting the job. So now we're going to get into some tips that seem small, but could end up making the difference on whether or not you end up getting the job or not. The first thing that you need to do is seem like you're really interested in the job. And I really can't stress how important this one is. If you're not really interested in the position, you're not going to get it unless the employer is desperate. And this is because the rate of employee turnover is incredibly high right now, especially in personal training. So if you want the job a lot, make that known to the employer at least a few times. Even if you only want the job a little bit, make the employer know that you want the job a lot. It's better to turn down the opportunity later if it makes sense than to not get the opportunity at all. One of the best things you can say to show your interest in the job is something like, I really like what you guys do here. I think this is the type of environment I'll do really well in. Another good way to show some interest in the position that you're interviewing for is to ask your interviewer some good questions as well. If I'm interviewing you for a potential trainer job and you ask me things like, what types of clients do you guys train here? Or how many sessions does a trainer do here during an average week? Well, in that case, I know that you're interested in what we do here, and I also know that you're serious about the position. A lot of trainers are too wishy-washy or too go with the flow, and that's not really going to lead to success in this field. You need to be a go-getter. You need to be someone who's invested and interested in their craft. So be aware that if you ask your interviewer some good questions, it's going to make you look really good. If you're more comfortable with it, you could even write some questions down before the interview even starts and bring them with you. That's never a bad idea. I should also say that if you're not interested in the position at all, it's best not to lie about that. Don't waste your time or the interviewer's time and go after a job that's not for you. Another tip I have is to be ready to start working right away. If I'm interviewing you here and you can't start working until here over a month later because you have vacations and other obligations, well, again, I'm probably not going to hire you unless you're an all-star or I'm really desperate. If I am managing a fitness facility, the thing that I am lacking most is time. If I have to wait a long time to start training you and get the ball rolling with your job, well, yeah, it's just going to really hurt your odds of getting hired. My advice would be to only start applying to these positions once you're ready to work. So when I'm looking to bring on a trainer, there are typically 3 steps in the hiring process. Step 1 is a talking interview where I get to know my potential employee. This could be via Zoom, it could be in person, it could just be a phone call, whatever, it doesn't really matter. Step 2 and 3 could vary in order depending on where you're trying to work. You'll likely have to shadow a trainer or 2 at the facility that you're applying to work at. You'll also likely have to train the person who's interviewing you or a different trainer who works at the facility. Now, I do the nice thing and I let trainers shadow me once or twice before I have them take me through a session and train me. Many places don't do that though. They may want you, the applicant, to take them through a session where you can show off your skills right in the beginning. So let's go over how to do well in that part of the interview. There are a few strategies that can be really useful here. Let's set the stage first though. Your interviewer may ask you to train them specifically. They may also ask you to pretend that they are a client and then have you train that pretend person. When I'm bringing on a new trainer, I tell them to pretend that I am a 45-year-old female who is looking to lose weight and has minimal exercise experience. I then have the trainer or applicant write up a program for that person and take me through it, pretending that I'm that person. I do it this way because a 45-year-old female focused on weight loss is far more likely to be their actual client than someone like me. The first thing that you'll want to do if you're a new trainer going through this part of the interview is open up the lines of communication with your pretend client. Ask them how they're feeling today. Ask them if they have any sore spots. Their answers could alter the workout that you have planned for them. Right after that, take your client through a dynamic warm-up. Include some light dynamic moves like air squats, Frankensteins, arm circles, anything that will prepare them for the upcoming workout. Putting some self-myofascial release into this warm-up, like foam rolling, is also a good idea. After you've spent 5 or so minutes warming up, it's time to move on to the main part of your workout. Since this is your first session with this person, do a total body workout with them where you're prioritizing form and control. I'd recommend supersetting or tri-setting all of your moves and doing a workout composed of mostly compound movements. So your workout might look a little something like this. Your warm-up is going to be around 5 minutes, give or take. After that, you're going to go into squats. After that, you're going to have push-ups. And then after that, you're going to have them do dumbbell rows. Then you'll give your client a break if they need it. Then you're going to go back into squats. Then you're going to go back to push-ups. And then you're going to go back to rows again. Again, another break here if they need it. Next sequence is going to be lunges, followed by pull-downs, and then reverse flies. Then we take another break and we go back through all 3 of those moves again. So in this workout, you'd only be doing 2 sets of every move. And then you could use whatever time you have left to do some core work. Of course, make sure to save 3 to 5 minutes at the end of the workout to do a cool down and some stretching. If your interviewer wants you to plan for an hour-long session, you may have to extend this workout portion of the workout. But if you stick to this format demonstrated here, you should do pretty well. As far as the stretching at the end of your workout is concerned, aka the cool down, you can either guide your interviewer through some stretches that would help them loosen up after a tough session, or you can do some assisted stretching with them, whatever you're more comfortable with. Some key things to focus on if you're asked to do a trial session are: 1. Be an effective communicator. Ask good questions throughout the entire session, such as, how did that exercise feel? Easy, medium, or hard? Another good one is, where do you feel this exercise the most? Also, feel free to insert a little small talk and ask things like, do you have any weekend plans? Or are you from the area? Questions like these just help to keep the session a little bit enjoyable. Don't let the conversation get in the way of your work though. 2. Make sure you're counting your interviewer's reps. You're probably best off not counting them aloud. However, on their last 3 reps, give them a 3, 2, 1 countdown. Be as accurate as possible with your counting. 3. Hand your interviewer dumbbells like this for any exercise. 4. Demonstrate each exercise before you tell them to do it. While you're demonstrating the exercise, make sure you give verbal instructions as well. 5. Correct any form errors you see while your interviewer is working out. And 6, this is kind of a bonus one, you'll be nervous. That's normal and expected. Be as confident as you can be and realize what you're feeling is normal. And we are used to seeing it and have been through the same thing at some point as well. I'm going to repeat that last part. If you're a typical, normal human being, you're going to be nervous in all these different situations. I've been there before, and I was as nervous as anyone. And yeah, now that I've interviewed a lot of other trainers, they always have anxiety in these beginning interviews as well. It's just part of the deal. Having nerves won't hurt your chances of getting the job if you're professional and do everything I just said. So be as confident as you can be, come prepared, and go rock that interview. Best of luck to everyone watching this video. If you stay persistent, you will get that job. And that, my friends, is all that we have for today. If you guys have any questions, make sure to leave those down below, and I will answer them. And if you haven't already, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel, because it does help the channel to grow, and that, of course, allows me to make more free content for all of you. Thanks for watching, everyone, and until next time, stay sorta healthy.